Hey, thanks for joining us here on the porch. I'm Todd and joined as always by Ken. How you doing, Ken?
I'm doing good, buddy. How you doing
Oh, I'm
today?
doing well. And we're here to discuss the differences between observed and unobserved electrons, what that means for quantum engineering and the submicron field. What's your thoughts on that, Ken?
Well, man, it's just too much there for me to talk about in the amount of time that we have allotted for this show. So I tell you what, yeah, it'll be in the show notes, man. How
Yeah, be
about
the
that?
show note. Look at the show notes for everything. But, oh man, we actually have an agenda for this episode, first time in on the porch history. But before we get to that, which is the Mount Rushmore of country music, before we get to that, we got a message from a listener, Ken. And
Okay.
I hadn't shared this with you. I don't know if you saw it on Instagram yourself or not, but it's from Mike Harris. Mike, thanks for sending us a message. Let me know, or generally where you're from, city, state, if you can. I'm still working on that map thing that we talked about last year, but
Yeah,
we're
I know, Mike. No, yeah, we met through another podcast. He's from
okay.
Florida.
Yeah,
Florida.
he says he's the guy that mentioned about the Peeps body spray to you. He says he's an
Yeah.
avid listener and loves the show. He loves the Mount Rushmore idea for tonight, and he would like to revisit the idea closer to the summertime in honor of your summer solstice ice cream tradition. He wants us to do a Mount Rushmore of ice cream.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I got something I need to talk to you about here in just a minute before we get going with everything. So
okay,
I don't want to forget about it.
okay, and let's go ahead and start with that. What do you have to say? Because I kind of got something I was wanting to share with you, but it
Uh,
might take us into the Mount Rushmore
yeah.
thing.
All right. Yeah. No. We talked about whenever you come out, we were going to do ice cream
Hmm.
when you come out. Well, I have this really good vanilla recipe that everybody really likes, and you can just put whatever flavor you want in there with it,
Uh huh.
and it's really good, or just plain vanilla. I also have make some good cherry ice cream. That's what we're
Yep.
talking about making when you come out. Well, the other day, whenever I talked to you, I was at that bakery outlet
Uh huh.
for tasty cakes, and you
Uh huh.
told me to get that you really like the cherry pies
Yep.
in there. So I got those, and I put them in the fridge as you suggested, and tried them. And of course, man, it's all I could do not to eat both of them. But this is what I'm going to do, man. I'm going to make some ice cream.
Yep.
How about some tasty cake cherry pie ice cream?
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Yeah,
What do
that
you think
sounds.
about that,
I
man?
think that sounds wonderful.
Like make vanilla. I mean, it's
Hmm.
really good vanilla. And right at the end of the freeze, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them, chop them up into, I don't know, golf ball size pieces.
Yeah.
Put them in there, mix it up really good, and then finish freezing it.
Yeah. That
That's
sounds
got to be
wonderful.
good, isn't
That
it?
sounds wonderful. Yeah, for anybody that hasn't tried the Tasty Cake Cherry Pie, definitely try one. And they're good, but they're really good if you put them in the fridge and just kind of let them get a little cool
Hmm.
to eat them. But I'm glad to hear that you liked it. So
Oh yeah. Oh, I sure did, man. I
yeah,
sure did.
they are
But
good.
it opened my eyes. I'm like, man, if this is good here, I mean, maybe throw it in the cherry ice cream. I don't
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
Well, I don't know. We'll have to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I did something this week, Ken, so no one else, so you don't have to, and no one that listens to this podcast has to. I listened to the Beyonce's country album.
Oh well, good for you.
I was going to give it multiple listens,
Uh huh.
but I gave it one listen, and that was a struggle to get through.
Did
I don't
you did you listen all the way through?
all the way through,
Mm.
and I like Beyonce, but my first question is Beyonce. Have you ever heard country music before? Because
Yeah.
it was lacking on the country music. I mean, it took probably 3 songs before I heard any like steel guitar or banjo or anything like that.
Yeah.
It definitely was. I could definitely hear like the gospel elements and stuff, but
Hmm.
it just it just wasn't a good country album. You know,
I know. It's like I don't know what country is because
right?
I have a friend that really good rock and roll
Uh huh.
guitarist, amazing, and he's decided he was going to play bluegrass, and he was practicing these bluegrass licks and
Uh huh.
playing these bluegrass songs, and he said, "Man, does that sound like bluegrass?" And I'm like, no."
Yeah.
It's they call it bluegrass or they call it country for a reason,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Uh,
you know, so
yeah. I had a friend of mine. He played bass, and he was playing in a bluegrass band. And when they were practicing, they'd stop and be like, "Andy, that's nice jazz, but that's not bluegrass," you know. And
yeah,
they told him that several times. But
yeah,
she covered Blackbird, which was fine.
hmm
And she covered Jolene, which wasn't, I mean, it was fine. It wasn't outstanding. But to me,
yeah,
Jolene's kind of like low hanging fruit for
hmm
covering in country because, um, that's kind of, Miley Cyrus kind of brought that song, gave that song new life. But, but, I wish if she wanted a country song, I wish she would just found a country artist to pair with and duet with, you know,
hmm
and instead of trying to go all out. And to be honest, I don't even know if there was any real instruments used on this album. It sounded all sampled to me.
did it.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah,
Well, so I bet how many songs did she have on there?
well, it listed 27 songs, but it was probably only about, I don't know, 17. Cause like a song would be listed, but it was like Willie Nelson saying something for like 10 seconds, you
hmm
know, you know, and Dolly Parton saying something for a few seconds, on it. But yeah, I heard someone call Beyonce album something to play during the bachelorette party in Nashville.
Chris, that is so
Yeah,
right, buddy.
yeah,
That the bachelorette parties would love that.
yeah, yeah. It
But
just
it's not country. So
no, it's not, and I just don't know. I know I think she's from Houston, Texas. You
hmm
know, but I guess I don't know. I mean, she put out a way better album than I could ever dream of doing, but
yeah,
it just kind of missed the mark on what it was supposed to be. So, but you ready to get into this
sure,
Mount
man.
Rushmore
We're
of
gonna
country music?
as long as you promise to be my friend still
Oh
when we're
yeah, yeah,
done.
yeah, yeah. We will. We got some listeners
Yeah.
that sent in their recommendations, and so we'll go through some of them first. And
Okay.
we have Lawrence here that he actually put in two lists. This is his first one. I guess this is his all
Mhm.
female list: Loretta Lynn, Tammy Wynette, Dolly Parton, and Reba McEntire. I assume it's Tammy Wynette. He just had first names, so
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah. So I
Yeah. I
just
mean,
assume,
Tammy Wynette's referred to as Tammy. It's
yeah,
like Garth or Elvis.
yeah,
It's Tammy,
yeah,
Loretta, Dolly,
Bono, yeah, so,
Reba,
yeah,
Todd.
yeah, Ken, yeah. So that's a solid list, especially if you're, if you, classify it, as if you classify as, if you do a male list, a female list, and a
hmm
songwriter list, that kind of thing. I don't have any problems with this. I mean, I don't know who I'd take off to put on, from the female country artists. Maybe Patsy Cline, but I'm not sure exactly where she would slide in at. I don't know which one I'd exactly take off. But
Take off Reba.
yeah, that's probably the weakest link of these.
I
She
wouldn't
wouldn't have
tell
any.
her that. You allowed to get smacked around.
Ah,
Tell her
she she
that.
should know. She should know.
Yeah.
But and then Lawrence gave us another list here. Uh, Still has Loretta Lynn and Tammy Wynette on it, but George Jones and Conway Twitty. So
Okay.
no complaints there. And something I didn't realize till I start doing research for this, Conway, everybody knows George Strait, 44, number one hit singles, top.
hmm
Conway's number two at 40.
Yeah, Conway had some hits, dude.
Yeah.
In his time, so was that a little bit before your time when he was really popular?
Just a hair, but he was still popular enough when I was a kid. I remember him, you know, and um, that 40 number one hits does not include It's Only Make Believe, which is considered a rock song. So,
well, he started out rock,
yeah,
just like Johnny Cash.
yeah, and the scrolling through that list of artists with the most number one hit singles, it's really surprising right off the bat, you know. Like Ronnie Millsap's like number 4, I think. You know, and that's something I wasn't expecting.
No, exactly. I mean, I like one or two of his songs, but I never was a big Ronnie Millsap fan.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we used to see him all the time playing around here.
Oh yeah.
Around Nashville, everywhere.
Holly had Dolly and Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, and Loretta Lynn. So Loretta's getting a lot of love already.
Yeah, well, she should, man. Loretta's she kicked open a lot of doors.
Yeah, you know. She did. I like this list. I'm a big Randy Travis fan. I think of these 4, he's probably might be the one you could really make an argument for someone else against, but solid list still from Holly.
It's solid, but there's really only one I could take off of there.
Yeah. And then Dan gave us Johnny Cash, Hank Williams Sr., Dolly, and George Strait. Solid list. This would be hard to get pull one off.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's Johnny Cash. I mean, there's so many, man. I mean, it's just like, how could you, I mean, at some point you just got to leave somebody off.
Right.
You know, and you got to, I feel like you need reasons to be on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Johnny Cash would have reasons, and
and then Chris Carter gave us George Jones, Merle Haggard, George Strait, and Hank Williams.
Yeah, that's my buddy Chris right there.
Yeah.
He's Nashville. He's a heck of a banjo player, man.
Oh yeah. But I mean, another solid list. So
George, Merle, Texas George, and Hank Williams.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't go.
You can't argue with any of that, you know.
No. So let me ask you this before we get into our own Mount Rushmores, Ken. If you knew someone like Beyonce that never heard of country music before, what one country music song, would you say you have to listen to? What's like the best ever country music song?
Since she's a female, I would tell her to listen to a female artist, and probably listen to Loretta Lynn, You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man.
Yeah.
And Beyonce should be able to relate to that in some way.
Yeah, I would think so. Do you think that's the greatest country music song ever written?
No.
What do you think's the best?
All right, here you go. I'm digging deep, man. You know, country music, that's the thing about country music. It evokes a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
You know, people that never really liked country music, once they dig into it, you know, and these newer artists kind of get their feet wet. And once they're in it for a while, they learn that the really good songs and good singers can bring a tear to a glass eye, man, you know, or they can make you happy as well. But, and this is one, it's an old one, man, by Jim Ed Brown.
Yeah.
And this is one that every time you hear it, you got to sing to it. And it's kind of happy and a little sad, but Papa Top again.
Oh yeah, that's a classic. I love that song.
I mean, I don't know of anybody that's never heard that.
Yeah, that's a classic.
It's got classic. What rhythm is that? 3/4 or
Yeah.
the 3/4 rhythm where they're where you can like two step to it,
Uh-huh.
or is it a shuffle? Is what it is.
Yeah.
It's got the old two step shuffle, and
Yeah.
it's just a good song. It's a good song.
Yeah.
Alan Jackson redid it too
Yep.
long ago.
Yep. Yep.
But Jim Ed Brown, you got to go back and listen to his. I don't know when that was, 1964 or something like that.
Yeah.
60.
Yeah, I need to listen to his
So
version of it. So,
no,
um,
that's like Brenda Lee's "Rocking Around the Christmas Tree." There's other
uh-huh.
ones, but
Right.
she's it, and Jim Ed Brown is it on Papa Top Again,
Yeah.
because it's got the shuffle to it. You can't help but just bob your head a little bit and tap your toes, and it's got that old country sound. It's got steel in there. It's got everything.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I mean, there's so many good ones. I mean, yeah, there's so many
Yeah.
ways you could
Yeah.
go, because
Yeah, that's right, Dan. So many ways.
I was struggling between that song,
Mm-hmm.
Papa Top Again, and He Stopped Loving Her Today
And
by
that's the song I was going to pick. He stopped loving her
George
today.
Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, buddy. I shouldn't have.
No. That's perfect. That's perfect because that song is so well written and tells such a story, and then if you're not paying
Mhm.
attention, it's like got this little twist at the end, that
Mhm.
kind of catches you off guard,
Yeah.
and then even when you know it's coming, it's still like, heck, it's a powerful song. A lot sadder than Pop Top Again, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so moving,
Yeah.
and
It
delivered
sure is.
perfectly.
First time you really listen to it, you're like, oh my goodness, what a
Mhm.
sad song.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ken, do you want to do your list first, or you want me to go first?
It don't matter. Uh, I don't know. You want to go?
Yeah, I'll go.
All right.
But before I start revealing artists here, just kind of give you my thinking of it. My first thought was like, to see which artist had, the biggest hits, kind of thing.
Mhm.
As far as most hits, that kind of thing. I kind of went into money a little bit, see who made the most money, but that's so skewed to the newer artists because the money's so much bigger now.
Man,
And
did
then,
you know that? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
I'm just excited to be talking about this. You're talking about the money.
Uh huh.
One of the best songwriters and country music singers of all time would probably, if he's not on everybody's top 4 list, he should be. You're wrong, but it's Merle Haggard.
Uh huh.
And dude, when he died, he was worth $5 million,
Oh yeah.
which that's $5 million more than I have. But compared to country music, the new guys, I mean,
Uh-huh.
you know, they're making money hand over fist. So yeah,
Yeah.
it is skewed on
Yeah.
the
They're making
amount of
20
money.
times that. The top 20 moneymakers are making 20 times that, in a
Hmm.
year. And, but, and then I started looking to like influence, start looking at interviews of different artists, uh, you know, which artists were the most like influential for more artists that came up, because there might be an artist that maybe not have as many solid hits or as many number one hits, but their contribution to the industry or to the music, really laid a foundation for other people to build on. And also I looked at not completely, but yeah, lasting impact, kind of thing. So for my first member of the Mount Rushmore, of course, these aren't in order. They're just a list. I got Hank Williams
Okay.
Sr. To me, he's like the godfather of country music. He's what to me, I mean, I'm not an expert on Hank Williams, but in my eyes, he's kind of the guy that laid the foundation for modern country music, you know, with his songwriting and just still so many people just revere him and love his music. And it's just timeless. timeless stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you always have to have Hank Williams. And for all the reasons we talked about also, and kind of goes in the same vein here as Loretta Lynn, you know.
Okay.
I really thought about putting Patsy Cline in this place because she was a little bit ahead of Loretta, but I think what Loretta did springboarding off what Patsy did surpassed Patsy Cline, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Loretta and Patsy were big buddies.
Yeah.
That's why one of Loretta's twin daughters is named Patsy.
Yeah. And then I said it last week, and I have to stick with it. Alan Jackson is on this list just for, he built off what Hank and Loretta did, and he stayed pure, solid country music. He's got hit after hit, every, I think he's had at least one number one hit in every decade he's played music in, and just so many songs, so many great songs. And then the last one I really struggled with, and I'm going to tell you this, it almost was Tim McGraw. Almost.
Oh, no. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, only because for some reason, he's influenced a lot of more modern country people. He has it seems like he's kind of the guy that has really influenced people a lot. Alan, all these people have, but
sure.
But it wasn't. It wasn't him. I even considered Brooks and Dunn for a minute. And I considered Garth. I considered George Jones and George Strait. Heck, I even thought, is there a way I could put Roy Clark on this list because I really like Roy Clark?
Roy Clark, yeah.
But when all is said and done, and I looked at who was left, I had to go Merle Haggard.
Well,
number 3 and number 1 hits, just his influence and the catalog of songs. And, he was right there in the 60s and 70s and just, writing banger songs and leaving a lasting impression on everyone around. And like I said, I tried to find someone maybe a little bit, different or that I could make a strong argument for, but I couldn't make a strong enough argument to overpower all the accomplishments Merle Haggard has had in his career. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, that's dude. I can't argue with any of that. Like, who said that? Dan? Yeah.
Yeah.
On that
Dan.
list.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know country music, that's 4 big ones right there, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and leaving Garth Brooks, George Strait off, it's like those are 2 guys you could really say, hey, they should be there.
Garth, man.
Garth's break in his career is kind of what, if he would have kept going, he'd definitely probably been on the list. But the break in his career, and then that whole where he did that, what was it, Chris, where he like combed his hair forward and gave himself bangs and act like he was a pop singer, for that.
Chris Ledoux?
No. Garth Brooks, where he took on that alternate personality.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. That just kind of went sideways for me, but
Merle Haggard, man, you can't beat him. He was a man.
No, yeah, he was a good one. But that's my list. So, just for those watching here on YouTube, I don't know Ken's list, and so I'm going to try to make a graphic for his names on the fly. So if I'm not looking straight at the camera, that's why. So,
right.
But Ken, go ahead.
Well, man, I probably should do some homework, but I sat down here and I made a few notes right before we came on. And but when we get done, I'm going to tell you who Rolling Stones, their top 100 greatest country artists of all times are.
Okay.
And it's a top 4. And
Okay.
we'll just leave it there. All right, my number 1, this is in order, is Merle Haggard.
Okay.
All right. Merle Haggard, he was insane. He went to prison, and he got out of San Quentin in 1960, and that's when he turned his life around and started writing songs and singing, and the rest is history. But the reason I picked him, of course, is because of his songwriting ability and his voice. I mean, he writes songs like no other. I mean, you can.
Right.
It don't matter. Just any of his albums. Just pick one.
Mm-hmm.
Pick one. And but whenever I was coming up with my list, I was there's kind of little different styles of music. And out in Texas, you got Texas swing, and then California had the Bakersfield sound.
Yep.
And that was their answer to the Nashville's overproduced country music that they were putting out at the time.
Yep.
So somebody I didn't put on the list from the West Coast, I was really wanting to, but Buck Owens.
Yeah, he was on my list. First thing I did before I decided, I just made a list. I just started off the top of my head, made a list of people, and he was on the list too.
Yeah. Merle Haggard. So he's Merle Haggard was there at the very start of the Bakersfield sound. So he's kind of representing that, the West Coast country. But in each one, I just wrote down 3 of my favorite songs by each artist to have a little something to back them up.
Yep.
But, my 3 favorites from Merle Haggard is Okie from Muskogee, I'm a Lonesome Fugitive, and Tonight the Bottle Let Me Down. Listen to any one of those.
Yeah.
That's quintessential Merle Haggard right there.
Yeah.
All right. And let's see, number 2. And the only reason I put him at number 2 and not number 1 is because he died at 29 years old.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't have a very long career, so I know who that
Oh, yeah.
is. That's
Typing it
Hank
out now.
Sr.
Yeah.
Hank Sr. And that's the only reason. Hank Sr., he's a master. Let's see, how can you put it? Hank Williams could say more and be more descriptive with fewer words than anybody I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Just listen to any of his songs. They're simple, 3 chords and the truth.
Yep.
But when you listen to his songs, it's very descriptive.
Mm-hmm.
But Hank Sr., he's the one that took country into the modern era, just like he said.
Yep.
His music consisted of blues, jazz, gospel, all of it. It was all combined.
Yep.
And it was his own style of honky tonk. He's the one that started the honky tonk sound. Mm-hmm. Before him, it was just like Jimmy Rogers or some other guys that were good. But Hank Sr. was the first country music superstar.
Yeah.
There had never been a reaction, like that before him.
Yeah.
And he was the first country music superstar. So, but the only reason I put him at number 2 was because he just died so early.
Yeah.
I couldn't let him knock Merle off the number 1 spot there.
Yeah.
All right. And then let's see, who did I put? Let me see the other one. All right. And number 3 is, you mentioned him, is George Strait. And I picked George because that's like, Texas has got their own thing out there, that red dirt scene right now. But, I started, Bob Wills entered my mind because I don't know if you know who Bob Wills is, but you got the Texas swing, and he was big time out there, the dance hall scene and everything back in the day. But, for the number of hits, the number of fans, and just everything that he's done, I couldn't leave George Strait off there.
Right.
Because he is straight up country, just solid straight country, man. If I had to tell somebody, if somebody asked, okay, who's one of the artists, that I could go listen to and listen to all their songs,
yeah,
and learn what country's about, I'd say George Strait.
Yeah.
Just go to him. All right. And my 3 songs from him is The Cowboy Rides Away. When Did You Stop Loving Me? And I love that song. Have you ever heard that one?
I'm sure I have, but it's been a while.
Yeah, and Troubadour.
Yeah. Troubadour
That's
is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's so many good ones. I mean, you're going to leave off artists and you're going to leave off songs if we're just doing
probably
four.
George Strait, Carrying Your Love With Me is probably my favorite of his.
Yeah, there's so many good ones, man.
Mm-hmm.
But I've just tried to, Hank Williams is from Alabama, from the South, and my next one is, of course, you probably know who it is. She's been mentioned several times. Is Miss? Are you typing it in already?
Oh yeah,
Loretta Lynn, man.
Yeah,
I had to pick her because she was she was the first woman to like kick the doors down, and she was singing, you ain't woman enough to take my man, and Fifth City. She's talking about fighting, and back then women didn't talk about it, and they especially didn't sing about it and rejoice it, but she was Loretta. I mean, she in the songwriting, Loretta and Merle Haggard are the two best songwriters that I know of in country music.
Yeah. I think of all the lists we've had, Loretta's been on every one, so I think we can go ahead and establish that she's probably the greatest country artist of all time.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's right there, man.
Yeah.
She is right there. And she joined the Opry in 1962, and from there, man, like the next 20 years, she was just killing it, dude. Mm-hmm. I mean, killing it. She didn't have as many number ones as like Merle or George Strait. She had 16 number ones.
Yeah.
But she did have 70 that was in the top hits. I don't know if that's top 10, top 20.
Yeah.
Whatever, but that's still it.
It's probably top 10, I'd imagine. That's usually how they do that. But yeah, it's just crazy.
And then all the songs she did with Conway, that you mentioned Conway.
Oh yeah.
Earlier. All those songs. And she evolved, man. She did about 20 years ago, I think it was. She did a song with Jack White, which I don't know if you know who Jack White is.
Oh yeah.
He was the Red Stripes.
And, the White Stripes.
White Stripes. And but the album was titled Van Leer Rose, and it was just a really good album. So I was happy to see her do that. But my three favorite songs from her is, there's going to be some left out, but Don't Come Home with Drinking, with Loving on Your Mind, that one.
Yep.
And there's another one. I think it was on her very first album, Success.
Okay.
And you see, if you don't, you got to go listen to it, man.
Mm-hmm.
To really get a feel for it.
Yeah.
And then Honky Tonk Girl.
Yep.
That might have been on her first one.
Yeah.
But that's my top four right there, man. And the reasons, like I said, there's gonna be some left off, but I kind of did it by, Loretta's from Kentucky, Hank's from Alabama, so I kind of spread it out.
Yeah.
Out west a little bit to pick up a little of the Texas swing music, George Strait, and also Merle from the West Coast, the Bakersfield sound.
You didn't get any of the Canadian country singers on there.
No, and Shania is not in the top four. I don't care who puts it on the list. She's not on the Mount Rushmore.
She's not on Mount Rushmore, but she was on not my short list, but my long list of names to consider. But that's a great list, man. Our list isn't the only difference is George Strait and Alan Jackson, and that they kind of take up the same vein,
Mm-hmm. And except George Strait's a little bit. He's got some swing in there. That Texas swing in some of his songs, not all of them.
Right.
He does have a little Texas swing in there. It's a little different than Alan, which I think, in my opinion, still Alan Jackson, Merle Haggard kind of has all that covered.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we talked a lot about number ones, and we mentioned George with 44 and Conway with 40. Merle Haggard's at 38 at number 3. Number 4 is Ronnie Millsap at 35. And then Alabama Millsap's at 4 with 35. And then the number 5 one is Alabama with 33 total, including 21 straight, so.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And looking at the list down just a little bit, Charlie Pride comes in at 7 with 29. And then Alan Jackson, Tim McGraw at 26. And then Dolly, Reba, Kenny Chesney, Buck Owens at 21. And then there's a name I never heard before right under Buck Owens. He's tied with Buck Owens and Kenny Rogers at 21. Sonny James.
Oh yeah, Sonny James.
So I went and did a little Sonny James listening since looking through this most number 1 hits. Like some of the songs I knew, I was like, I've heard that before. But it's like,
was he 70s?
Yeah, kind of 70s, late 60s, early 70s. I guess I didn't do a lot of research on him, but I just kind of went to YouTube Music and started listening to his stuff, and it was kind of cool, old school. But yeah, scrolling through the list, it's like, wow, some of these names kind of shocked me that they're there, and then I see Sonny James. I'm like, I don't even know who that is,
Yeah.
And he's got one more number hit than Brooks and Dunn, So
See, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And
but that's longevity has something to do with it too. I think probably Mount Rushmore.
Yeah,
I mean the only one that didn't have a long career that on my list was Hank Senior.
Yeah,
on yours too. I mean he just lived to be 29, and that's another. We should do a Mount Rushmore of top musicians that didn't make it till their 30s.
Yeah, well, we should try that sometime. There's a bunch to choose from.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. So, but Dan's liking your list too there. So thanks, Dan. But it's just the criteria for what you want. That's the cool thing about the Mount Rushmore is it's the criteria for what you want to focus on for the best. It varies, just depends on who you are and what you put value in.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I try to pick people from a little bit different era, not necessarily geographically, but I didn't want to double up, people that were kind of contemporaries too much. I did, but I had to, for obvious reasons,
mm-hmm.
But it was so much fun. So, yeah, I learned about Sonny James. Did you learn anything looking through this? I know you've been a longer country music fan than I have. But.
Excuse me. Let's see. Not with these 4, because these are only 4 that I didn't do a whole lot of research. I probably should have. Sorry.
Well, you just remember it from life.
Yeah, I learned that the Rolling Stones top 4 in this order.
Okay.
And this was after I picked mine.
Yep.
I looked it up. Number 1 was Merle Haggard.
Uh-huh.
Number 2 was Hank Sr.
Okay.
Number 3 was Johnny Cash.
Okay.
Number 4 is Loretta.
Yep.
So that's pretty close to what I picked, except for Johnny Cash. And you can't argue with Johnny Cash.
No. No. Why didn't you pick? Neither one of us picked Johnny Cash. Why didn't we pick Johnny Cash?
Well, the reason I probably didn't pick him is because I didn't grow up with him, but I saw him everywhere he'd go. Back in the day, you'd see him everywhere.
Yeah.
And he just didn't seem that influential to me because I saw him. That's like Ronnie Millsap over there at Opryland. When I was a kid, we used to go to Opryland, and he was playing over there all the time. So, it's like I just got burnt out on him, I guess.
Yeah.
And then Johnny Cash, I mean, he was the man. Johnny Cash was the man. So, but how do you pick between him and who was it that I picked? Hank,
Merle, Loretta, George Strait.
And George, yeah.
Yeah.
So between Johnny Cash and George Strait, and like I said, for the reasons that kind of spread the love a little bit, picking up a
Yeah.
little Texas music and West Coast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I couldn't argue with Johnny Cash or at all.
Yeah. Johnny Cash was highly influential. He had a lot of influence in not just country music, but rock and roll as well. And I didn't pick him either, and I kind of thought I would, but he I'm trying to find out. He never did pop up on the list of like most number ones. If he did, it was way down the list. I'm trying to find it. He never had a number one hit.
Who, Johnny Cash?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think.
Yeah.
He's definitely represents country music, but
Right.
I just don't think he had the star power. And it's hard for me to tell because I saw him all the time in the town I lived in,
Right.
so I don't know. And that was back, when stars could go to Nashville and not just get mobbed.
Right.
So you'd see him around, you see him out eating or whatever. So I don't know if the star power, if he had it and I just kind of immune to it or not. But
Yeah.
I just didn't feel like he could knock out George Strait for a lifetime of work.
Right. Well, it's like, why didn't he have, it said his biggest hit was A Boy Named Sue, which reached number 2 in 1969. It's like, why didn't he have a hit? What was it? Songs like Walk the Line and Ring of Fire get played millions of times around the world every day, and those songs didn't hit number one. It's just it was an odd place for me to put him. You have all these other influential artists that wrote hits, wrote their own hits and all this. And I don't know if it was maybe I don't want to say a lack of focus, because he had I wonder if his albums were better sellers than his songs individually. That's something I need to look at.
I don't know.
Because
I'd
he
be
had that
willing to
TV
bet-
show and stuff, and so I thought maybe, that kind of put a stifle on it.
I'd be willing to bet that his live recordings at San Quentin.
Yeah.
And what was the other jail he went to? San Quentin and
I don't remember.
shoot, I can't remember now. But he recorded at two different prisons, and I bet you anything that's his best selling albums, because they're pretty darn good.
Yeah, yeah. And personally for me, the Johnny Cash, he's got his big songs. Like I said, Ring of Fire, Walk the Line. When he remade, was it 9 Inch Nails, Hurt? If I listen to any other, I'm Going to Jackson. If I listen to any other Johnny Cash song, I'm like thinking, is this about over?
Right.
It's like his secondary stuff isn't that, as secondary songs that aren't as popular just don't hold up very well.
Yeah. Man, honestly, I think the whole Man in Black genre, or not genre, but
Mystique.
the mystique, the idea of the Man in Black, and he's been in prison, and he had a song, Cocaine Blues, and I don't know, I think that got him a long way, because he wasn't the best singer.
No. And I was going to say that about George Strait. George Strait is a phenomenal singer, but none of his songs, like, they're kind of all, somehow he can tell the story without being big and, small. It's not like he's got major, like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like he can hit every note in the book, like some people can. But the way he delivers is the right way to do it for those songs.
He's definitely got his songs that's in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
He sticks to them. It works for him.
Yeah.
But you mentioned oh darn, the black guy, Charlie Pride. Sorry. Charlie Pride. Now he was the first African American to have big hits, but he wasn't the first African American to play the Opry.
Oh, really?
It's been years ago. I can't remember his name because I just thought about it because my son played with his grandson for a while. But that's very influential right there. But Charlie Pride. Now we have Darius Rucker and other African Americans singing country music. But that goes back to that goes back to Hank Sr. There was a guy, Rufus Payne was his name, and he was a really good blues guitar player down in Alabama. And he had a big influence on Hank Sr. With the blues influence.
Yep.
Just talking about earlier, his music was influenced by blues and gospel and even some jazz in there. And that's where he got all that bluesy stuff was from Rufus Payne. So, there's, I don't know.
Yeah. I was sitting here thinking there is one guy we both left off our list and we're going to kick ourselves. Cowboy Troy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bend over. I'll kick you first.
Hey, Cowboy Troy's not making your Mount Rushmore?
No, neither is little Jimmy Dickens.
So everybody knows I told Ken earlier in the week I was going to prank him with a false list, and it was going to be Cowboy Troy, Casey Bellerini, Jelly Roll, and Florida Georgia Line. So, but
that's 4 biggins right there.
Yeah, 4 biggins. So they're a Mount Rushmore or something, but that's for a whole nother podcast, I guess.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you didn't seriously put some of the bro country stuff on there. I mean, there's some good Jason Aldean. I mean, there's some good ones, but boy, there's that overproduced Nashville stuff.
I'm, thinking about that this week. I kind of want to bring it up. I didn't want to shoehorn it in there, but since we brought it up, I talked about last week about Alan Jackson just kind of being who he was and singing the songs and being who he was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that's the exact formula that Florida Georgia Line used. They just were who they were. And that's probably why they got so popular. They're just a couple of bros.
Yeah.
and
well,
that's it. Like it or hate it. They were just being who they were. So I got to give them credit for that at least.
I guess, man. I don't know. Dude, that's just killed country music. That's why, Alan Jackson, when you hear somebody that's country, they stand out.
Yeah.
Alan Jackson, he's going to stand out, man. When you hear him.
They absolutely are. They absolutely are. But that is our Mount Rushmore of country music. If you guys have any more to add, please let us know. You can send us a message on Instagram or Facebook. Facebook, it's On the Porch, and On the Porch Pod on Instagram. Or you can email us at joinusontheporch@gmail.com. Ken, I think it's about time for us to head out. My son just pulled up here, so I'm going to go visit with him if that's okay. And
all right.
And see what he's up to. But guys, thanks for joining us for this special episode of On the Porch, the Mount Rushmore of country music. And we'll be back next week with the Mount Rushmore of Nobel Peace Prize winners.
I am going to do a little study on that.
No, but yeah. So my son just texted me. He's listening. He says Jelly Roll took the Merle Haggard approach to his career. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So, but all right, guys. Thanks again for joining us here on the porch. And Ken, take us home.
Okay. Once again, I want to thank everybody for joining Todd and Ken on the porch. And we're gone.